We are live. Welcome to BAM Fight Club. I'm Colby. This is Fern. We are previewing UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Spivac, taking place tomorrow, February 4th, at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. And we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the main card. But before we get into that, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you like the video. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, BAM Fight Club. And Fern, first up, we've got Yusaku Kinoshita versus Adam Fugit. And I believe I actually pronounced that correctly. I'm very proud of myself. Kinoshita coming in as a negative 340 favorite. So for the first fight on the main card tomorrow, we've got what the odds makers think is a pretty lopsided matchup. Kinoshita, he is a young up-and-comer. He's 22 years old, just won his first fight. Or not his first fight, but he won his fight on the Dana White Contender Series just in August, and he's going up against Fugit, who's 34 years old, a not so young up and comer. He had his first fight in the UFC last July, where he lost. So we've got the young up and comer is coming off of a win. Fugit coming off of a loss. It seems like it's in terms of style, a striker versus striker matchup. It seems like it'd be favoring Kinoshita. What's your breakdown on this one, Fern?
Yeah, so we have Kinoshita, who has a Pancrase background. Pancrase, for any of you guys who are familiar with that, like Frank Shamrock, Ken Shamrock, Bas Rutten used to do that style. It's Japanese kind of wrestling with open palm strikes. A lot of grappling, a lot of groundwork, really focused on the technical aspect of the ground game. With Fugit, he's kind of a little bit of an older fighter, has experience in other organizations, specifically LFA. He's looks like he's fought and had a couple of titles in those organizations. I think it's going to be a great fight to watch because you have a young up and comer guy against a guy who's got a ton of experience in other organizations. So you have a guy who's going to either prove he belongs and has been one of the best fighters, regardless of the organization, or you have a young guy who's going to show, hey, like, I'm here, I'm going to go against a guy who's very worthy, very well rounded, and see where we go from there. You know, I love to see these fighters that are recruited from overseas, from Japan. I just always think of these fight cards back in the day, Pride, Fedor, all these fights that were held in other countries. And I hope that as UFC kind of continues to expand, like, and look at other countries, like they start returning to Brazil. That was a crazy fight card that I don't think anyone like could say that was not one of the craziest, with Brandon Moreno getting like pelted with drinks and stuff. And it'd be great to see kind of the opposite aspect of that, which with the Japanese culture, who is a lot more respectful, a lot more not not to say they're not respectful, but such a quiet audience to watch fights with. And so with this one, I think it's going to be a pick 'em fight. I would honestly say I'm going to go with Fugit. Just the experience he has, to me, is going to show. Is hopefully going to show. He's got a much bigger reach, 77-inch compared to 71. And it's just, he's been there. He's been in those tough spots and, fought for titles in organizations. And, I will always cheer for the older fighter to give them, one more shot, to hopefully see them around, as long as we saw Glover Teixeira around, Randy Couture, DC. Fugit's going to be my pick. What are your thoughts, Colby?
I feel like I've got to go with Kinoshita. He got that finish in his last fight. Granted, it was Dana White Contender Series, so maybe not quite the same as the UFC fight. But Fugit's coming off of a loss where he got finished. So one guy's coming off of a finish, the other guy got finished. Neither one of them have a track record really in the UFC. So just based off of that, I'm gonna, all of the things to me being equal, as far as like the stats go, obviously it's hard to know, really what the stats mean when you don't have a lot of fights under your belt. But yeah, I'm gonna be picking Kinoshita on this one for sure.
Yeah, great thing to notice too, man. They both lost. They both won and lost in the third round. So it was, well into the fight, that their victories or losses came. So they definitely can hang. We'll see who's able to bounce back from their last fight.
Yeah, definitely. Next up, we've got Duho Choi, I think is how you pronounce it, versus Kyle Nelson. Choi coming in as the negative 180 favorite. Nelson plus 155 underdog. Choi is coming off of 3 losses in the UFC. It's a little bit weird because he had 2 fights in the UFC and then he went into the Ultimate Fighter, which is strange. I remember this guy now. But I don't know what the reasoning why he was in the UFC. He got cut, then he came back with the Ultimate Fighter. Not too much longer later. Yeah, we just saw Choi. His last fight was in 2019. I could have sworn we saw this guy fight not too long ago. Must be someone else I'm thinking of. But Choi's coming out of Korea, 31 years old, come up a 3-fight losing streak. Nelson, he's also coming off of a losing streak, 2-fight losing streak. Before that, he had a win, and before that, he had 2 losses. So he's lost 4 out of his last 5. I think it's the good matchup. You've got guys who are on a losing streak. For sure one of them is going to be breaking their losing streak when they go to fight. I guess that's one of the cool things about matching up guys who are coming off of losses. And in terms of styles, we've got, it seems like Choi maybe a little bit more of a striker, Nelson a little bit more of a grappler, but really I think both of these guys are considered strikers. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it looks like Choi has the higher KO TKO wins, almost double the significant strikes, grappling. It looks like their defense is about a little bit over 50%. At looking at Choi's record, he's got some losses against some big names, some recognizable people. Jeremy Stevens, Cub Swanson. He's got a win over Thiago Tavares. Like, although he's had some time off, like, he fought some challengers. And with Kyle Nelson, I definitely think he's got more to overcome in terms of like more to prove. With Choi, I just think, to me, Choi looks like he's gonna have the better chance at winning, the better resume, the better depth at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Choi for this pick.
All right, you picking the favorite on this one, and yeah, it's hard to say. Neither one of them have momentum. Who knows where they're at mentally, what they're doing in the gym. We'll say Nelson's last fight was in July last year. Choi's last fight was in 2019. But like I said, I don't know if these stats are wrong or what, because I could swear I saw this guy fight recently. But if it really was 2019, that's over 3 years without his last fight. And even though the stats might say he's going to be a little bit better in the striking, I think Nelson is the more all-round fighter. He's got an equal number of KOs, subs, and decisions, so he can go the distance. So he's probably got that conditioning. Since he's got some submissions under his belt, he's got some grappling game. I just feel like Nelson may have more ways to win than Choi. We'll see, but I think on this one I'm going to pick the underdog in Nelson. Any other thoughts on that fight, Fern? It's another, or the first fight was a fighter out of Korea, Choi's or Japan, Choi's out of Korea, and up on the next fight we've got. Oh, actually, never mind. That's another fight away. The next fight we've got is Marcin Tybura versus Lagoy Ivanov, the big boys, and pretty close odds. Tybura come in as a negative 140 favorite. Ivanov as a plus 120 underdog. And I like both of these guys. I recall the last fight with Ivanov. He's a guy that is not afraid to get hit in order to try to throw his strikes. His last fight, Ivanov, was against DeLima, where he ended up getting the decision win over him. He did have 2 losses before that, but it was against Sakai and Derek Lewis. So, he's going against top competition. He's got a win over Tai Tuivasa and Ben Rothwell. I mean, you just keep going. This guy's fought, the top of the division, and Tibura, he, man, how many fights do these? Okay, yeah. So Tibura's actually got like over 10 fights in the UFC. Ivanov, he's only got 6 fights in the UFC, but they're all against absolute killers. And he's had quite a run at Bellator and some other organizations prior to that. With Tibura coming off a win over Romanov, who is uh, really competitive in the heavyweight division. He had a loss against Volkov. Before that, he had a win over Walt Harris, Greg Hardy, who's no longer with the UFC, went over Ben Rothwell. So he's got some impressive wins as well. So both of these guys have a pretty good resume. Both of these guys are getting up there in age. Ivanov is 36, Tibura is 37. What are your thoughts on how this one's going to play out?
Dude, their resumes are ridiculous. I'm looking at Marcin Tybura. In 2020, he fought 4 times. He fought against Greg Hardy, Ben Rothwell, and against Sergey Spivak, who's on the main card, main event, and it's just that's crazy. And then he came back and fought Walt Harris. These are all guys who have fought, you know, and had success at the division. With Ivanov, he's just been decisions, which means I'm like interested for his cardio. Like took Ty Tuivasa to decision, Derek Lewis to decision, Ben Rothwell, Junior Dos Santos, all these guys who are knockout guys couldn't stop him. And, but we've said that
Yeah,
before. Like there's guys that you're like, oh, this guy can't be knocked out, and then the next fight they get knocked out. And that's happened twice with Derek Lewis and Bam Bam. So I will not say that guys cannot be knocked out anymore. Um, I just think Tibora to me has the more consistent wins, the more consistent ability to finish. And for me, he's going to be my pick. He's also significantly taller. It shows UFC.com has him listed as 6'3" and Ivanov as 5'11". 5-inch reach advantage. So for me, Tibora is going to be the pick. Um, it's going to be exciting regardless. Like these guys just have so much experience in the cage. Each have won
yeah,
close to 20 times in their professional careers and lost, less than 10 each. So Ivanov only 4 losses, Tabora only 7 losses, and Ivanov seems like his losses are all decisions. So it's gonna be a close fight, I think, for sure.
yeah. And I think I'm going to go with Tibura as well as my pick. I feel like either one of these guys could definitely win. Like I said, either one could get the knockout. When you're in the heavyweight division, it's hard to predict. How things are going to go, but I just feel like Tiberia's got a little bit better movement. They're both the same weight, but as you mentioned, Tiberia being a few inches taller, so he's technically, I guess, a little bit slimmer, and he's got that reach advantage. So if he's gonna, keep moving around, even up also, it's kind of interesting his style. If you recall, when he throws punches, a lot of times he ducks his head. So
Mhm.
I feel like if Tiberia watches some tape on Ivanov, I feel like there's going to be plenty of openings for him to take advantage of. And that being said, Tiberia, based on the stats, does have slightly better defense in terms of strikes absorbed per minute. Tiberia's is a bit less. So I think that comes from him having the better movement, being able to get out of the way of punches. They both have the same defense in terms of blocking. So yeah, I'm going to go with Tiberia on this one. It's not a sure thing. I just feel like things are slightly in his favor. And here is the one I was thinking of last time. Next up is Daum Jung versus Devin Clark. And Jung is fighting out of Korea, and Clark out of the U.S. Both these guys pretty close in age. Jung is 29, Clark is 32. Clark's coming off of a loss. He had a win before that, 2 losses before that, so he's lost 3 out of his last 4 fights. Jung has also coming off of a loss. He had 2 wins before that and a draw. So neither one of these guys really have the momentum in their favor. I don't know, you know, if either one of these guys, I mean, they are on the co-main event, so I'm trying to understand like, who has more to lose in this fight. Both of them have not great records in the last several fights, so
Yeah.
either one of them could be in trouble in terms of are they going to get their contract renewed or not if they get another loss at this point in their career. Clark, longtime UFC veteran, has been fighting all the way since 2016. Quite a mixed record of wins and losses, about a 50-50 record in the UFC, whereas Jung, not as many fights in the UFC, only 6, but of those 6, he's only lost 1. He's had 1 draw, and then the rest wins. So based on the records, I feel like that's slightly favoring Jung. And in terms of stats, stats also I think are favoring Jung in terms of strikes landed per minute. Actually, Clark does have, I think, a little bit better defense, is what the stats are showing. But both of the guys seem like they can grapple. Both have pretty good takedown defense. Both of them shoot for takedowns multiple times on average in each of their fights. Neither one of them do they have any? Actually, they do have one or two submissions, but my guess is it's not going to end by submission. It's not going to be a grappling match. Like this whole main card is just like strikers, very striking heavy. So if you're into grappling, this is not the fight card for you. It's going to be a lot of stand-up battles, I feel. But based on everything we just went over, I'm kind of leaning towards Jung. And I forgot to mention, Jung is the negative 240 favorite. Clark coming in as a plus 200 underdog in this one. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just looking at their records, and definitely Clark has the more depth. He's fought Ion Kudalaba, Anthony Smith, Ryan Spann, even fought Jan, Jake Collier. I'm looking at Young's record, and he fought a guy named Hulk in 2017. So, like, besides that, he decisions split draw with Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey is a fan favorite, comes to fight, but definitely not the most skilled fighter that's like kind of recognizable. I definitely want to see this be a knockout finish. I think that's why they chose these guys to be, right before the main event. These guys are definitely going to have, a lot of eyes on them. Everyone's excited about the main event, but these guys are going to have to set the tone for that. And I think all the other fights look like they're going to be doing that. With Derek Lewis on the card, I think everyone looks forward to just a bunch of knockouts and finishes. And I don't expect less from this. On this one, I'm going to go ahead and, with Clark just having the more familiar names that I recognize and closer finishes or closer results, he's going to be my pick.
All right, picking the underdog. And the fight most excited about, Derek Lewis versus Spivac for the main event. Lewis coming in as a plus 205 underdog. And I guess before we get into the stats, are you surprised, now that I think of it, that this fight is not taking place in Texas, which is Derek Lewis's hometown, when he's going to be the main
event?
Does that surprise you at all, or?
No, yeah, absolutely. I would expect, any card that he's headlining is going to be, would give him the benefit of the doubt. And no clue why they switched it. He's looking lean. He's looking, maybe that is the reason why, maybe he requested it. He looks like he's been training, dieting, looks a lot slimmer, looks a lot healthier. Maybe
I guess he can stay off of that stay away from that Texas barbecue.
Yeah, and just chose to be like, hey, I fight best away from home. I want, he's at kind of a do or die point. I've heard a lot of people, they announced Jorge Masvidal's fight coming back. Derek Lewis, I think, might be in the same position as well. Like, you have these guys who are fan favorites, who are known finishers, and they're not doing that. I don't want to say people are figuring them out, but people are definitely coming in better prepared against them. And, it's showing. I don't want to say they're one-dimensional, they're predictable, but the fact that they've kind of been read the last couple of times, again, I mentioned when Derek Lewis fought Bam Bam, I was like, these guys can't be knocked out. And now you're just like, wow, it's happening. And I don't want to say that he's lost his chin, lost anything, but he's got to bring something new to this. You know, I think with Spivac, he definitely has advantage striking stand up wise. Derek Lewis does, so I think this is a perfect matchup for him. It's going to be an interesting conversation to have after this if he doesn't blow through him.
Yeah, and I think one thing worth pointing out is, you know, as everyone knows, Derek Lewis, he's a stand-up fighter. He's not a grappler. And Spivac, you know, he takes several shots in his fights. His takedown average is around 4 per 15 minutes. So, you know, if we're talking 3-round fight, you know, that's more than one takedown attempt per round that he's fighting in. So for Derek Lewis, I feel like he's got to keep this standing up. Spivac, his best chance, I feel like, is taking it to the ground. This is maybe the only fight that, you know, has a guy who takes a lot of takedown shots in it on the main card. So that part is interesting to me. Derek Lewis coming off of 2 losses. Spivac, he's coming off of 2 wins. So mentally, Spivac, you know, definitely got to probably be in a better space. I'm not. I do feel like Lewis is in a little bit of a weird space where he's a fan favorite, and you know, he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights. Not that they were against pushovers. I mean, you know, he's going against absolute killers. Pavlovich, that Russian guy that he's mentioned, Bam Bam, Daukus, Cyril Gahn. So, but at the same time, even if Derek Lewis loses 3 out of 4 matches, I'm still going to watch every fight because, you know, every once in a while, he's going to land that shot that, you know, is just going to, you know, make the crowd go absolutely crazy. It's going to be an amazing moment. Yeah, I'm curious. Is Derek Lewis at this point just kind of resigned to, you know, not changing anything in his style, or is he going to add something new to the repertoire to kind of throw guys off? You know, one thing I think that's fun that he does, you know, he throws those like flying, you know, kicks or whatever, those weird jump kicks or some spin kicks, which is crazy. He's flexible enough that his foot can even go, you know, high enough to touch a guy's head. But you know, at heavyweight and everything. But none of that stuff ever lands. So no. I like it, but I feel like he needs a few more things that he can throw in just to, like, you know, even if it's not what he's counting on. Something though that's going to make the guy, you know, think about a takedown, think about something else so that he can let his hands go and have an opportunity for it to land. Because I agree with you, when at this point in his career, there's so much tape on him. His and it's at the highest level. It's not like, you know, if you watch tape of like, you know, Conor McGregor in his, you know, first fight in the UFC, I don't know if that's very informative, you know, once Conor becomes champion. So, you know, once you're in the top 10 for a while and you've gone up against multiple different styles, Derek Lewis has how many fights in the UFC? Like 20 or something crazy like
and he's
that.
fought for the title before, and you know, it's just, you've reached that level before. Yeah, it was it wasn't close. You know, I think that was against DC, and you know, he's just got to figure something out. It, besides his hands, you know, you mentioned the kick, he's not offering anything that people haven't seen already, and he always has that one punch power like he had against Curtis Blades, got dominated, and then just Hail Mary can land it, but he just can't rely on that. You know, it's time for him to adapt, or he's gonna end up being like a fighter like Mark Hunt. I love Mark Hunt, but just became so predictable. And yeah, it was great when he knocked people out, but then it didn't happen. It happened less and less, and then it just stopped happening. So yeah. I don't want to see that happen to him. I think Spivac is a great challenge for him because they're gonna hopefully stand and trade and go. But you know, for Spivac, you know, him having that good a record that he has, it might be this might be the opportunity that propels him into, like, hey, he might be top 5 after this. He might be, you know, with only 3 losses on his record and a finish over Derek Lewis. I think this could put him in talks for, you know, a title shot. You know, they're looking for people to challenge up top. Hey, throw somebody new in there. With Lewis winning this, I think it just shows that he's still relevant and can still hang.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness to Spivac, I don't. I mean, in the sense that he's a great fighter, and this would be a great win on his record, and will definitely put him up in the ranks. But I really don't see Spivak fighting for a title, even if he wins against Lewis in spectacular fashion, just because of the people who are ahead of him, which is like,
Mhm.
there's Stipe, John Jones is coming back, Nagano's out, but Cyril Gahn is there. I feel like I'm missing out on another name I can't think of right now. But with those guys, can you really say Spivak deserves that title shot more than Stipe, who hasn't had his um, a fight after he lost against Ngannou, which didn't that make him 1-1? He didn't
Mhm.
get like immediate rematch. He didn't even get promised like down the line you're gonna get
Nothing.
the rematch. Like I feel like everyone just forgot about poor Stipe for a while. But then you've got the excitement of John Jones. Um, yeah. So it's gonna be tough. But yeah, this Spivak needs this, but I feel like he'll need one win against one of those other guys in the top four position ahead of him in order to get that title shot. So, although not do or die for Spivak, if he's really serious about hunting for that title, he's going to need this win in order to get that next title eliminator fight. And I think that'll be interesting. And I think he's got more motivation because I feel like Lewis feels like even if he wins, he's probably not going to be getting a title shot either anytime soon. So I think the odds make sense here. Negative 245. I feel like there's more ways for Spivak to win than for Lewis. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Spivak to win on this one. Who are you picking?
Yeah, heart says Lewis, but brain says Spivak. And when it comes to picking people for fights, man, you gotta go with the smart choice. And odds makers in this one, I think, are absolutely correct. I love Lewis. Hope he keeps putting on, good fights. But, I think he might be one of those fighters that we consider putting up, the legends category, but just have them fight other people that are on their way out. Not to say that he's there, but, you know, give us entertaining fights for the remainder of his career, because this next fight is going to say a lot. And both of the guys have similar fight records, like two fights last year, 3 fights the year before. So their activity level is consistent. Them being on one of the first fight cards of the year, hopefully they're able to get on either a summer card, whoever wins, and be on one of those bigger cards, or at least fight one more time by the end of the year. Definitely hope to see them both again. But yeah, Spivak to me is just, he's been more consistent.
Yeah. All right. Well, this is going to be a fun one. I forgot to mention, I think, in the intro, fights are starting quite late tomorrow. Prelims at 7 p.m., main card at 10 p.m. So this one's going to be going past midnight. I don't know.
Pacific?
That's what it says. I mean, I'm looking at the ESPN website. Yeah, it says prelims start at 7 p.m. So, yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know what we're gonna do tomorrow leading up to the fights. I'm gonna have
10
to like
p.m.
start drinking
Pacific.
coffee at 5 p.m.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, anything else you want to say before we sign off, Fern?
Shout out to Zeke Flores, still BAM Fight Club sponsored fighter. I will be uploading a great prediction. I got to go see Steve-O in person and chatted with him about an upcoming fight. So that'll be a cool post I do. Cool that I got a chance to talk to Steve-O about some MMA. But yeah, other than that, like, subscribe, share. We're coming up on our year anniversary. So thanks for being with us and sharing and being a part of this. And I think at a year, we're going to have the best views for that Steve-O video. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised with what he had to say. So did you see it? That video I sent you, right?
Yeah, I saw it.
Do you hear
I
him?
won't spoil. I won't spoil.
His words. I was just like, oh, like, I was like, definitely some interesting words for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's coming out soon, and we'll catch you guys later.
Awesome.
Signing off.
See ya.